Our next speaker is Michael Craig, and Michael Craig is from Amnesty International, and also he's representing China Rights Network. Thank you.
Thank you, Mintura. This is a horrific story. It's a story about two sides that are definitely not equal. On the one side, we have the people of Burma and their monks who are very deeply revered in that country, which is quite devoutly Buddhist. On the other side, we have an illegitimate, I would call it a criminal regime, a military regime. A regime that has ruled Burma through the barrel of a gun for over 40 years, and what's more, and perhaps even worse, has been in power, has maintained its power violently for the past 17 years since the National League for Democracy was elected in a vote where the people voted over 80% in favor of Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nobel Prize winner who should now be the president of Burma. I have a couple of questions for us. I think we know why this is happening. The monks had to take action because the people were increasingly impoverished. Many people are living on rice water, while the regime is getting rich, often rich on drug profits, and often rich through involvements with foreign corporations like Canada's own Ivanhoe Resources that help the regime to build a copper foundry and a copper extraction operation. This is happening because the regime is truly evil. That is not a word that Amnesty International, the organization that I represent, normally uses, but here it applies because these leaders are brutal, violent, and utterly unprincipled. But this is also happening, in my view, because this military regime has been tolerated by the world community and in many respects assisted by parts of the world community for 40 years. I'd like to look at three countries in particular. China has used its veto in the United Nations Security Council to fight off any significant sanctions against Burma. China is, after all, itself a major human rights abuser and repressive, authoritarian, and totalitarian like Burma. So it's one totalitarian regime supporting another.
That's right.
China is also Burma's largest trade partner, investor, and supplier of arms. So follow the money, you can understand the international politics. Canada would appear to be on the side of the angels. Our foreign minister has called the massacre in Burma a deadly use of force, which he condemns, and he says Canada is deeply concerned by this appalling situation. But the problem with Canada is that we are so often in these situations big on rhetoric and lacking in action. Canada has not taken a significant role at the United Nations. Canada has spoken up, but has not stepped up.
What about our criminal corporations?
And, as this woman points out, Canada has done little to stop Canadian corporations from investing in Burma, which helps, of course, to substantiate and perpetuate that regime. The last country is Singapore, which is currently the chair of the Association of East Asian Nations. Singapore's government, their foreign affairs minister, has said that they are appalled at the crackdown, feeling revulsion, and they call for the release of political prisoners, including Aung San Suu Kyi. Very well, but actions speak, in this case, louder than words, because last week Singapore stopped a demonstration of Burmese people in their country, in Singapore, called it an illegal assembly, and threw people in jail. Singapore, too, has mammoth investments in Burma and has been supporting the Burmese regime for over 20 years in very, very substantial ways. So I tell you, follow the money and you will see where the politics lie. The only hope is our support, the world's support, the support of ordinary people for the monks and the ordinary people of Burma. They have shown great, remarkable courage. As we know, over 100, maybe as many as 500 have been killed, according to reports. And at least 2,000 have been arrested. They have been disappeared. We don't know where they are. So I'd like to conclude here by telling you briefly, just the points, what Amnesty International and the Burmese organizations are calling for. We call on the government of Myanmar to end this brutal repression and in particular account for the whereabouts and well-being of all detainees and give them access immediately to independent lawyers, medical personnel and family members. Release all prisoners of conscience, including Aung San Suu Kyi, and all those detained for participating in those peaceful assemblies. Ensure that while in custody, prisoners are not tortured, ill-treated, or punished. End restrictions on the media, telecommunications, and the internet. Another sign of the courage of the Burmese people is that they've been getting the word out, despite this clampdown on the media. And finally, we demand that Burma cooperate fully with the United Nations Human Rights Council and the Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Myanmar. And if Mintura won't kick me off this makeshift stage, and if it doesn't rain, I would like to briefly quote from the Globe and Mail the words of a very brave monk by the name of Vida. Some of you will have read this in the last couple of days. He said, as he had escaped to Thailand, he said, "Many monks are still hiding at the homes of people or on the top floors of apartment buildings. It's dangerous for anyone who goes out. We're worried about our friends, especially those who have been arrested or have disappeared. We saw that the military is very brutal, and we think a lot of people must have been tortured or killed." Amnesty would concur with that. They're almost always tortured in Burma. We plead with the international community to support us in any way they can. The military may have 400,000 soldiers and a fearsome array of security agencies, but Vida has no doubt that the monks will prevail. The regime will not last much longer. As Buddhists, we have, he says, the power of love. And finally, again from Vida, the army knows that what it did was wrong. Next time, they will support the people. The army can be divided, but the unity of the monks and the Burmese people will never be divided. Thank you.